guys, ladies, gentlemen, friends, family, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Like, geez, we are here. 30,000 subscribers. How long has it been that I've been doing this channel? How long have I been here on YouTube? And now, the culmination of the journey, not necessarily the peak, but an achievement. We are here, I am here, you are here. Everyone, thank you so much. I am so excited. Oh, my hat almost came off. That's how excited I am. For some of you, it's the first time here. For some of you, it is the 100th time, maybe 1000th time. For some of you, it may be the last time. That's okay. Thank you so much for being here. Let me even change the lighting for you guys. I appreciate you being here. In case it is your first time, my name is JP. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And you have come at quite the time. You've come here at quite the time, because even though you may see 29,000 on there, at this particular point, we should be at 30,000 subscribers. And because of that, we are crossing off the final subscriber goal here on our chart. And that is going to be The Wall, Pink Floyd, 1979, 11th studio album. We're crossing it off the list. Now, I'm just going to tell you really quick. This thing's dusty. I'm just going to tell you really quick. If it is your first time here, or if you're only here to listen to the music, skip ahead just a little bit, just a smidge. It's okay. You don't have to listen to me talk, because I am going to talk just a little bit. This is going to be so special. I'm going to cross this off left-handed. This, actually, let me do it here, because left-handed, I'm not very straight. That's not even white. It didn't even come off. Hold on. I should have. What color is this one? Hold on. That's why I brought a backup marker, to make sure that if we're going to do this, we got to do it right. All right. Here we go. White highlighter marker. Try that again. There it goes, guys. There it goes. Cross it off the list. 30,000 K. We're here. We are here after however many years. All of it. Listen, because I forgot to originally, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cross off that 18K right there, because I forgot to do that. Man, it is a huge accomplishment to be here, and I appreciate you guys joining me on this journey. We don't need those anymore. I thank you guys so much for being here as we get into the first side of Pink Floyd's The Wall. I'm excited to listen to it. It has been a subscriber goal for many, has it been years now? Months at least. It's been a long time. And like I said, if it's your first time here, maybe this doesn't mean as much to you. Like I said, just skip right ahead. Don't listen to me blabber on, because I know I'm already blabbering on. But yeah, for a lot of us, for myself, this has been a long time coming. This is, once again, just a big step in my goal, in my history here on the channel. And like I said, and I have said before, and it's not exaggerated, my life has been changed because of this channel, because of your support, and everything that we've done here. I cannot thank you enough for that. So I don't want to keep you overly too long. I don't want to like, you know, delay the point so much, but we are going to today listen to the first side of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Now, I know that, one, this is a concept album. I don't know what the concept is, but I do know that it is a concept album, or at least thematic. The first 6 tracks here on the album: In the Flesh, The Thin Ice, Another Brick in the Wall, 1, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, and then finally, Mother. So I may let 1 or 2 of these tracks go together. I'm sure that technically this whole side and really the whole album should just be listened to in one straight shot. However, for the sake of being able to talk, you know, of course, react to the music, I'll probably stop it maybe after each song, maybe not after each song. We'll just kind of play it by ear. So that's going to be the first thing that we'll be doing. Of course, listening to the music and reacting to it and such. And I see, and I have seen that other reactors have had problems copyright-wise with this. So it's more than likely going to be edited on YouTube, and then, you know, the full version on Patreon. Of course, it's free. Anyone can go and click it. You don't have to sign up or anything like that. But it will probably be edited on YouTube. I'm just putting that out there in case it does. If it doesn't have to be, I won't. But some of you have seen what I had to do with the Lamb from Genesis, and that is really annoying to go back to a video I did years ago, a double album just as we're doing now, and have to re-download the video, edit it, re-upload it, try and get past all the copyright stuff because whole sites were blocked and whole songs had to be removed. Anyways, we're not here to talk about Lamb. We're here to talk about The Wall. So, like I said, that will be a thing. And before we get into it, which we are going to do very, very shortly, I just once again want to extend a giant thank you. And this is going to sound cheesy, I know, but just bear with me. Just bear with me. Thank you for everything that you have done for myself here on this channel. Thank you especially to all of you who have supported myself over on Patreon, which I'm just going to plug it. You can do for as little as $2 a month. All of that has helped myself, has helped my wife, has helped my family. And once again, I'm not memeing when I say it has changed our lives. It has helped us a lot. So this is my way, of course, of this goal and other things that we do. This is my way of extending my thanks to you. And of course, just listening to some more music. So I genuinely appreciate that. It's hard. My heart, listen, I'm not like gonna be overly emotional, but it's done a lot for myself and my family in our life. That's all I'm gonna say. So we'll leave it at that. Anyways, thank you guys. I don't know. This is weirdly emotional for me. This is so weird. I promised myself to like come into this video, be hyper, be exciting, and I hope I am. Like, you know, and I'm getting a little bit of an emotional touch on this in here. Anyways, let's just get into the music. If I want to get out of that specific mood, let's just get back into the music. The Wall. We're gonna start off with the first track here, In the Flesh. Now, before we do get into it, I am familiar with Another Brick in the Wall. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Hey You, I'm pretty sure I've heard that one before. Hey You. Da, 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 da. That one, Comfortably Numb, of course, I've heard that one. And I think that might be the only tracks on this album that I know. So I'm just putting that out there ahead of time. But before we get ahead of time, which I guess technically this album is ahead of time. Get it, because woo! Anyways. Grab a glass of whatever beverage you prefer. Grab a snack. Sit down on the couch. Lay down on the bed. Rest your feet up. It's time to go ahead and dive on into the album. I can't see how long I've already been recording. Has it been like 5 minutes? Jeez. Some of you are like, JP, get on with it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and begin with the first track, In the Flesh. Whether I let it go into the next track or not, what I may not, but I'll make sure I do catch those transitions as we move forward. And forward we shall go. In the Flesh. Let's do it. Sometimes the internet connection takes a second. Sometimes it takes a second. Let me try it. Scared me. What a ripping intro already. Halo, steal this melody. My hat almost came off again. Such a gentle reply. Like, listen, I just needed to give it a little break for a second because we need to talk. We need to have a conversation, you and I and you, before we let it transition. But I did want to hear a little bit of how it goes into the next track. And of course, we'll go back and catch that transition as we go. I had a little bit of a Sean Connery moment in there. Okay, so I've always mentioned it when we listen to Pink Floyd, but I think that Richard Wright is severely underrated in what he brings. The organ in the first track, and just the way it lifts up the drama of really these two tracks here, but especially in the first one, because drama these first two tracks are filled with. From the rocked out opening into the more sedated, more backed off in subtlety of the next track here, which calms things down for just a moment before we're moving into the next track here. We're getting a lot of sides already of Pink Floyd. They're showing their diversity in their sound. They're showing their execution in their songwriting. They're showing maturity in their songwriting because while I don't know what the concept is about at this point, and I'm going to look at it, but just based off of listening to it, you can already hear the maturity. Listen to Mason with his drums, the powerful little tight drum roll, the right before that explosive guitar from Gilmore in the second track there. It's just brilliant. The singing is wonderful, and while at this precise moment I don't know what the story is about, you can tell that it's quite important. I mean, from, like I said, that rockish opening, and then it devolves into the sounds of battle and airplanes, perhaps dive bombing or something, and then very quickly cutting it off, and we're getting a baby crying before we move into the next track. So we're getting a big kind of life narrative. I don't know. Let's dive in a little bit before we move into the next few tracks here. So going back to In the Flesh, let me pull up the lyrics there so we can talk about that one first. Let me just get right about here. Okay, so it says, we came in. So you thought you might like to go to the show to feel the warm thrill of confusion that Space Cadet glow. Tell me, is something eluding you, Sunshine? Is this not what you expected to see? If you want to find out what's behind these cold eyes, you'll just have to claw your way through this disguise. So we're getting, I don't know the exact story. Like I said, we'll get into that, but someone in a more experienced role saying, so you wanted to be part of this, you're the newcomer, you wanted to be on? Okay, you're on. Oh wait, this isn't what you expected? Well, if you want to see what's behind all this, you got to work your way through. It's going to take pain, it's going to take a lot of stress, you got to get through it, you got to claw your way through this disguise. So, I guess behind the stage, in a sense, because the next line's here, lights, roll these sound effects, action, drop it on them. So kind of like the, what do you call it? The theater of war, right? Literally kind of described here as theater, lights, the sound effects, but also at that point we hear the planes coming in and such. And then, like I said, we get quickly into the baby crying there. So let's move on into the next lyrics here for Thin Ice, and we'll connect all these together. So if after the baby cries, Mama loves her baby and Daddy loves you too. And the sea may look warm to you, babe, and the sky may look blue. If you should go skating on the thin ice of modern life, dragging behind you the silent reproach of a million tear-stained eyes, don't be surprised when a crack in the ice appears under your feet. You'll slip out of your depth, out of your mind, with your fear flowing out behind you as you claw the thin ice. So it seems that both of these tracks are kind of setting us up with like someone who is getting in above their heads. The first track sounded lyrically like it was more of like a, we're starting in the future. We're starting this story in the future. And now with Thin Ice, it's kind of a, okay, now let's go back to the beginning. So we're getting a little bit of like non-linear storytelling, it seems like, with these two tracks. Looking into it, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page now. It says that the title is in reference to the band's In the Flesh tour, during which Roger Waters, in frustration, spat at a fan who was attempting to climb the fence, separating the band from the crowd. Aren't there bodyguards and stuff for that? There must be another way of handling that situation than spitting on the on the person trying to get in. But hey, I guess you got to do what you got to do. It says here that In the Flesh introduces the story of Pink, a rock star. Which one is he? It begins with the opening of a rock concert. The lyrics inform us that despite his outward appearances, things are much different behind these cold eyes. And that if the listener wants to know what's really going on with Pink, you'll just have to claw your way through this disguise. So I'm getting the idea before we move forward that this is going to be one of those albums that's a concept album, but is the way for the band to like insert themselves a little bit of an autobiographical take into a specific character, of course, here aptly named Pink, and that the audience is kind of a breaking a fourth wall. Like, we obviously are the audience, but we're really the audience in here. It says the song also subtly indicates that Pink's father is killed in a war with the sound effect of a dive bomber. Finally, we hear a baby crying, indicating that Pink and his mother are left without a father and husband, respectively. And it goes into later on the film or in the soundtrack here as well. Interesting. So, okay, so it's almost like we're getting kind of two stories, because wasn't Roger Waters' father killed in World War II, if I remember correctly? So this kind of seems to be harkening back to that as well. So like I said, we're getting a kind of autobiographical take, at the same time a fictional story with a lot of real life references in there. And then moving on to Thin Ice, Looking at this particular track, it says here that I'm trying to see where it says about the information on this one. Thin Ice can be seen as an introduction to his story since the previous song is chronologically placed later. And yeah, I caught that. Sometimes I can catch things. Thin Ice introduces Pink as a baby and young child, and while the lyrics assure the listener that Mama loves her baby, Daddy loves her too, or loves you too, it warns the sea may look warm, the sky may look blue. Don't be surprised when a crack in the ice appears under your feet. Which, yeah, that's basically just explaining life. You know, things are, in a sense, as they seem to appear, but at the same time, things can happen that can turn the world and our lives, your lives, my lives, upside down. Anyways, I think it's time we move on into the next track here. So, actually, did I even go into the lyrics of of Thin Ice? I know I just read about the information, but I didn't even look at the lyrics. But I guess looking at it, it pretty much says the same thing what I just said. So let's go ahead and let it go into the next track here. I'll probably let it go into the next two. So we're going to listen to Another Brick in the Wall, Part 1, and then The Happiest Days of Our Lives. But before we do that, let me just go back really quick, get to the ending of Thin Ice, and let that lead into Another Brick. Let's go! How awesome is that guitar, though? Is that a Peter Gabriel reference? The pain, you can hear it in the way he screams out there. That's great. Okay. Wait, that's the transition. All right, I've heard Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, okay? All right, let me back up for a quick second. Let's come back to Part 1 right there. Okay. Woo! All right. This is getting good. I like this. Are you guys having a good time? Another Brick in the Wall Part 1. So I've never heard that, right? But I have heard Part 2, which we were just getting into a moment ago. I have heard that. Jeez, the way that Pink Floyd handles atmosphere, from Gilmour's guitar, Roger's pulse on the bass, just putting down this relatively simplistic rhythm, but then all the sound effects that are going on all around them. Just great, not only music storytelling, but storytelling, of course, with the sound effects that they have, with the children playing, and eventually the transition into the happiest days of our lives, which has the helicopters, so we're kind of getting thrown back into war like we were introduced to before. Just like a really great kind of way of, once again, this kind of non-linear storytelling. We're kind of going back and forth, it seems a lot. Musically, Gilmour's guitar in Part 1, I love the way that it echoes out and the way that they allow space and like resounding echoes. You know? Like, it's not like constantly playing something. It's just like, okay, play a note, play a chord, let it ring out. Let it fill the space on its own time and in its own time. And I just really enjoyed the way that the band does that. Singing is really calm and really nice as well. You have Gilmour taking the first verse and then Waters taking the second. And I just really enjoy what they're actually saying, what's actually going on in this story. Because just really quick, for Another Brick in the Wall Part 1, Daddy's flown across the ocean, leaving just a memory. A snapshot in the family album, which I still think is a Peter Gabriel reference. Daddy, what else did you leave for me? Daddy, what'd you leave behind for me? And when he says the second part of Daddy, what'd you leave behind for me, he says it a little bit more angry. He says a little bit more distraught. All in all, it was just a brick in the wall. All in all, it was just bricks in the wall. So his dad left, but to go fight in war. He died in war, apparently. And at first, this is a child trying to understand the loss of a parent. You have to think about it from that point of view. And if I'm catching the right point of view, I could be wrong. But from what I can tell, this is still Pink. This is him younger, after, of course, the baby part, and he's grown up just a little bit. But this is a child dealing with the loss of the parents. Daddy, what else did you leave for me? Like, that's the sadness. That's the grief. He's going through it. Of course, why wouldn't he? But then there's also this other part. And when she reaffirms after, Daddy, what'd you leave behind for me? So there's also this confusion. There's a little bit of a loss of innocence, perhaps. Because even later on, you hear children playing. I'm just speculating here, but I don't think he's outside playing with them. Maybe he's on the inside, looking out his window at these children playing. And maybe he sees children walking with their parents. Maybe he sees a kid throwing the ball with his dad. And he says, where's my dad? You know, so like, this is a good story, if I'm catching it all right. And I just want to say that I love how it moves into the next track, which is titled The Happiest Days of Our Lives, almost in a sarcastic way, moving on from this really sad family snapshot. And we immediately begin with the helicopter being, being flown or whatever. And then you have like, I don't know, a drill sergeant or something saying, yes, you stand still. So I don't know, because I'll have to look into it. I don't know if this is still a progression in Pink's life and Pink has joined the army or whatever and, is kind of following similar footsteps, or if we're actually going to the father's perspective. Maybe, I don't know. We gotta, that I have to look into a little bit. But I do think it's kind of interesting how this brick in the wall, of course, the wall, the name of the album, but, this brick in the wall is something that he's building from childhood on. And this is just another brick in the wall. This wall of separation that's separating, I don't know, maybe himself from others, maybe himself from his own innocence, his childhood, the loss of childhood. Whatever it is, it's a separation. And his father's death and his way of, coping with it is another brick in the wall. And he's putting that wall up like a defensive measure. Maybe against his feelings, maybe against emotions, I don't know, but I'm having a great time. I don't know. This is awesome. All right, so another brick in the wall is a 3-part composition, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to know about part 2 yet. I want to know about part 1. During part 1, the protagonist, Pink, begins building a metaphorical wall around himself following the death of his father. And the rest of this information is about the other parts, so I'm not going to read those yet. But let's move on into Happiest Days of Our Lives. And the lyrics on that one are, when we grew up and went to school, there were certain teachers who would hurt the children in any way they could, by pouring their derision upon anything we did, exposing every weakness, however carefully hidden by the kid. But in the town it was well known, when they got home at night, their fat and psychopathic wives would thrash them within inches of their lives. Okay, so he's describing an abusive situation in many different ways, and it's sarcastically, this is named the happiest days of our lives. Now, I'm attributing that back to the loss of innocence. When you're an adult, I think a lot of us kind of look back at our childhoods and going to school and stuff, and you're like, man, those are the good days. That was like the happiest time of my life, Now you got to worry about bills and this and that. Before, you just had to worry about memorizing some math formulas and, studying for a test, whatever it may be. Learning the alphabet, depending on how far back you're looking. Those are the happiest days, playing outside with, your friends, all that stuff. But he says, this is the happiest days of our lives, but he's saying this sarcastically, like, no, that was the happiest days of your lives because you guys had relatively normal childhoods. But for myself, it was much different with, of course, the loss of a parent, the abuse that he's taking. And so once again, as it moves into the next track, which is another brick in the wall part 2, we're seeing the proverbial building of this brick and the laying of this foundation and another brick in the wall, which I guess makes sense as to why it's called another brick in the wall. It says that this particular track, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, tells the story of Pink's youth attending a school run by strict and often violent teachers who treat the pupils with contempt. According to Waters, the lyrics were a reflection of his own negative experience in school. He describes this in an interview with Tommy Vance of BBC Radio 1. Obviously, really bad situation going on at this point. I'm hoping that this is going to be resolved nicely at the end of the whole album, but for right now, we got to move on into the next track here. So, like I said, another brick in the wall part 2, I have heard at some point in my life. I think I was in like high school or something. I heard it on the radio, which I don't listen to the radio really. But let's go ahead and listen to it. We'll talk about it after. Let me catch that transition really quick, kids. Not wrong one. Right about here. Great drum beat. Listen how powerful this comes in. Hit me with that bass.
All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
Just wanted to catch the transition. Let's talk about another brick in the wall part 2. Once again, I've heard it already. You've heard it already. It's a classic. It's a staple. We were all familiar with it. Where to begin with that one? Of course, you have, once again, the amount of funk that they interject into the music here. I mean, obviously Roger's bass line. It's once again like the music doesn't have to be overly complicated or anything. I mean, it's just. And then even before we get into like where the bass line really progresses, in the very beginning, it's just one note. Just let it ring out. Amongst Gilmore's funky chopping it up on that guitar, right? It's just very simply stated. Mason on the drums, he's just putting it down. It's a relatively funky, and yet how addicting is it to listen to that? I'm moving over here when it starts, but I can't help it. I mean, what do you want me to do about it? I can't help but move when you hear it. You may have heard it 1,000 times. You've heard the song a lot of times, but it's gonna remain eternal for obvious reasons, I would say. The way that the music, especially as the chorus as it gets into the chorus, how the music grows, and of course the chants of "all in all is just another brick in the wall." You know, as they chant that out, and then the way the music comes back down after that, and then for the second verse, instead of allowing one of the band members to sing, allow the children to sing. They're the focus of the story. They're the focus in you know the story. So actually give them a voice, and I'm sure that there was some children's choir or something that was used. We'll look, but like, and it sounds good. It doesn't sound cheesy, doesn't sound pretentious. No, they fit into the music quite well. And I know for a fact that during a live performance, the audience is just yelling and screaming and singing that anthem their heads off. And I'm sure that that's one of those live moments from the stage that's just euphoric, basically. And then Gilmore solo. What can you say about Gilmore solo? Well, what I'm going to say is, before we talk about the Gilmore solo, I really think, once again, right, his melody that he plays on the organ underneath Gilmore solo, I think it is so beautiful, so mesmerizing. It's, once again, nothing complicated. It's just some chords put down and held and sustained, but it's just the sound of the organ, the melody, like I said, he comes up with there, I think just sounds absolutely wonderful as you pour some syrup on top of that for Gilmore solo. And one thing I like about his solo, besides the obvious that we just heard, is the way that he plays his solo. He's not like shredding necessarily. I don't know anything about guitar, so just, bear with me. He's not shredding. He's not playing overly fast. He's not constantly playing even. There's a lot of times where he just stops playing. Just stops playing. Let the rest of the music, the background music, kind of play a little bit. Play a bar. Then he comes back in, interjects a little something. Then he steps back again. It's not a constant assault of notes. It's not like a constant, I'm here and I'm soloing. No, he's playing for the music. He's playing for the story. And I think he does a great job in performing the solo there, because it's singable. It speaks volumes without overloading our ears, I guess you could say, with volumes. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that is a wonderful, wonderful solo, and how to do that particular kind of solo. Very melodic as well. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control, no dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone. Of course, talking about the abuse from the previous track, and now it's like Pink, but also perhaps the whole classroom, I would argue, is now rebelling. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall. You're just another brick in the wall. You're just another conflict, another obstacle that I'm going to use to strengthen my mental fortitude and defenses. So I guess the students singing in this particular track are from Islington Green School. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control, blah, blah, blah. We've already read that. And then in the outro, what the teachers are screaming: wrong, do it again, wrong, do it again. If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. Yes, you behind the bike sheds, stand still, laddie. So like the kids are trying to hide from the teachers. The kids are trying to hide so they don't get beat. Like it's almost portrayed in a slightly comical way, but the actual subject matter isn't necessarily funny, which I guess is kind of referencing that dark sarcasm. And then the children are just playing. I think they're getting away. I think that there's actual rebellion going on here. Looking at the Wikipedia page for this one. So first of all, the single it sold 4 million copies worldwide, topped the singles chart in 14 countries, UK, United States, Grammy Award, nominated. It was only nominated? Why didn't it win? Says, in part 2, traumas involving his overprotective mother and abusive school teachers become bricks in the wall. And then it talks about part 3. He wrote part 2 as a protest song against the boarding schools as well. This is, of course, coming from Mr. Waters, rather. Seeing if there's any other information on this particular one. It says that in exchange for performing vocals, the school, the children of Islington School received tickets to a Pink Floyd concert, an album, and a single. So they got a little bit. They got paid out. They got paid out, not necessarily financially, but they got tickets to the concert. They got an album and a single. Though the school received a payment, there was no contractual arrangement for royalties for the children. Following a change to UK copyright law in 1996, they became eligible for royalties from broadcast. After royalties agent Peter Rowan traced the choir members through the website, Friends United, and other means, they successfully lodged a claim for royalties with the Performing Artists Media Rights Association in 2004. Good on them. I think that, hey, listen, you were a kid, maybe you know, labor laws and such, you're too young for all this, but now you're an adult, you track them all down, get paid. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's wonderful. This is a great track. Now I'm curious as to where this is going because the next song is called Mother, which ends actually side one. So our particular journey in this instance is almost over. But Mom also is apparently abusive, since in the previous track it was talking about, also getting hurt at home and beat at home. So now we're moving on from the school to back home. So let's go ahead and let the transition play. We'll talk about it after. Hope you guys are having a good time. Let's go.
Mother should have built the wall.
I love how that came in with that question. Almost like an answer musically. Interesting.
Mother, did it need to be so high?
First side, guys. What a brilliant song to end this side of the album. Okay, so we get a little bit of a twist here. So we got Helicopter Mom. Mama's gonna handle everything for you, baby. Mama's gonna be there for everything. All right. Before we get into the story, musically, I love how it starts off with this kind of stark, dry acoustic guitar, and later on the music becomes more wet. What I mean by that, listen to me, what I mean by that is that, of course, the other instruments begin to come in very slowly. I like how at one point a question is asked, what was it? I think it was, Mother, should I trust the government? And at that point, you hear Wright come in with, I don't know exactly what, some sort of synth. It's like a fluty kind of sound. I don't think it's Mellotron, but it's something else. And the way that Wright causes that melody to bloom in it kind of flutters in, right? It's like, and the way that it kind of beautifies the music at that point, of course, along with, more guitar and more layers coming in, it just like takes this song from something kind of stark and dry into something that becomes a little bit more melodic, and I don't know why the word I'm thinking of is wet, but I think that you guys know what I mean. It becomes more colorful. The song becomes more vivid, I think, in its approach. And I've kind of put that towards the actual lyrics and the story that's happening. So before, the whole song is pretty much written from the point of view of Pink. With at one point, it changes to the mother. But Pink is asking all these questions, will they drop the bomb? Do you think they'll like this song? Will they try to break my balls? Should I build the wall? Hold on, we'll stop there. So, inexperienced child who's dealing with a lot of things, he's asking Mother a lot of questions, right? And there's this almost hesitancy to it. There's almost this hesitation, and like I said, that's why the music kind of sounds dry. But then, when Mama answers and begins to give Pink her answers, this reassurance, perhaps a little bit more overbearing, a little bit much, but we'll get into that, the music, like I said, begins to fill in. So the questions are asked in a certain way, but then the answers are received and the music becomes filled. It's almost like, I don't know, if you're putting yourself in that position, when you ask a question to someone, you don't have all the answers. You don't know something. So you're incomplete. When you get the answer, you're complete. So that dryness of the guitar and the music at that point was incomplete. And now when we get the answer, it became, like I said, filled in. It was almost like a change from black and white into Technicolor, or into color TV. That's like the way I'm thinking of it, okay? However, let's talk about the lyrics in this one. The last question that he asked in the first verse, Mother, should I build the wall? Oh, so let's just take this story at this point linear from the last few songs. He's already started putting bricks up, right? From the last few tracks. But then he asked Mom, should I keep on doing this? Should I build the wall? Is this the right way to handle this? So there's this uncertainty that I love the way that he's asking lyrically here. And then he keeps on going, Mother, should I run for president? Should I trust the government? Will they put me in the firing line? Is this just a waste of time? So, some of the questions are a little bit more, I guess, childlike, you could say, or adolescent. And maybe some of these are more, now we're getting to teenage years, adult years, a matter of fact. And then Mama replies, hush now, baby, don't you cry, which is immediately comforting, right? Mama's going to make all of your nightmares come true. Mama's going to put all her fears into you because Mama's, of course, going to influence you by the answers that she gives you. A parent is going to influence their children, obviously, but that could also be for better or worse. Here, I don't know. Mama's going to keep you right here under her wing. She won't let you fly, but she might let you sing. Mama's going to keep baby cozy and warm. So even that chorus, that it's bookended with comforting verses. Mama, hush now, don't cry. And then Mama's going to keep baby cozy and warm. But in the meat of that sandwich, there's some other stuff going on. Especially the line that sums it up. She won't let you fly. She won't let you leave. But she might let you sing. She'll still let you express yourself, but under her care and under her eye. Not under his eye, but under her eye. Mother, do you think she's good enough for me? Do you think she's dangerous? Mother, will she tear your little boy apart? Mother, will she break my heart? So now obviously asking about dating advice. And, before dating this person, you got to get through Mama. Mama needs to approve this person. And she has a rigorous set of tests and qualifications, which I don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no. But when I think of like a teenager, boy or girl, and like they want to date someone, of course you'll have, times where, the kid will ask their parents and stuff like that. But if a teenager or whatever wants to date someone, whether parents approved or not, they got to date them. But here, he's putting all his trust into Mama, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe there's an overbearing amount of that. Now we go back to Mama. Hush now, baby, don't you cry. Mama's going to check out all your girlfriends for you. Mama won't let anyone dirty get through. Gonna wait up until you get in. Mama will always find out where you've been, so there's a little bit of a, this might be a little bit too much, maybe. Mama's gonna keep baby healthy and clean. And the way that she's speaking is like, I'm imagining at this point, like I said, that Pink is kind of a, an adult, basically, a young adult in some capacity. But the way that she keeps on referencing, baby, don't cry, gonna keep you healthy and clean, is a little bit much, right? However, let's put this into a little bit of perspective. She's lost her husband while Pink was basically a baby. We heard the baby crying. She lost her husband, so she's had the sole responsibility of having to raise Pink as a single mother from basically baby up. So it's a little bit unfair to maybe throw a little bit of mud at her. Because of course she's going to be overprotective. Of course she's going to be a little bit overbearing. Pink is all that she's had. So, and then at the outro, Mother, did it need to be so high? So did the wall need to be built this high, though? So even Pink is kind of thinking about it like, okay, I understand that, the wall has been built, but did it really need to be this much? That is good. To me, I think that this is brilliant. I don't know how you guys are feeling at this particular point, but I think that is also just incredibly brilliant. Also, I really like how the music kept on switching from 4/4/8/8, who knows, into 7/8. So it kind of every once in a while kept on throwing you off, which you could argue lyrically things are kind of thrown off a little bit. It's not all cohesive. It's not all like straightforward. There's some I didn't expect that in there. I think this is awesome. As told through the song Mother, part of Pink's sense of alienation comes from being raised by an overprotective single mother who lost her husband, Pink's father, in World War II. The song narrates a conversation by Pink and his mother, of course. The listener learns of the overprotectiveness. She insists that Pink stays by her side after he grows up and cannot stand it when Pink eventually grows older and falls in love. It says Waters explained to Mojo that the song is about the idea that we can be controlled by our parents' views on things like sex. The single mother of boys, particularly, can make sex harder than it needs to be. Most of the songs I've written have always followed the lyrics. I've often tailored the music to fit the words, especially something like Money or Mother. I think that is so cool. I think that it performed really, really nicely the way that it really did marry the music with the lyrics, especially, like I said, from the dry and distant guitar into the way it came up later on. Hey, I think that this was a great first side of the album. I'm really excited to listen to more, and I hope that you guys are as well. I said it all throughout the intro, so I'm not gonna say it all over again. But seriously, thank you so much for being here. I think it popped up on the screen a second ago. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you sitting through this with me, and hopefully enjoying the music as well with me. Of course, the whole 30K, all of you. All 30K of you. And some of you aren't part of that 30K, press the subscribe button. Come on now, at least for this video. So yeah, I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed the first side of the album, and we will move on to the second in due time. Short time, but due time. But for now, before you leave, if you don't mind just pressing the like button, like I said, press that subscribe button. It helps me a great deal. If you want, you can go ahead and support the channel, support myself over on Patreon. For as little as $2 a month, it helps me a great deal. You don't have to. I appreciate just being here. That's it. That's the video. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.